evening, one and all, and welcome to That Fandom Show. We can literally talk about whatever the hell we want on this program, and on this particular episode, that is exactly what we plan to do. And yes, that Zach in exactly was emphasized. Pun intended. I am Zach and ready to have a great time tonight talking anything and everything. Marvel, DC, House of the Dragon, Star Wars, horror, you name it, we've probably got an opinion on it. And joining me to talk about all those things and possibly more, we're going to highlight a couple of in particular things from the world of Westeros and the world of DC that just broke today. But I'm sure we've got a lot more than that on the horizon. It's Sean. How's your week going, man? I know that's the start of the week at the time of this recording, but it's been a minute since we've had a chance to talk. The last time you saw me, I was getting my ass handed to me at trivia, so times have changed, believe me.
I'm quite positive the next time we see you in Star Wars trivia, the results won't be the same. I think you got every piece of bad luck you could possibly get in that trivia round against Ben last week. It's going. It's a Monday, so it's early in the work week. But honestly, I am still nowhere close to 100%. But I can actually get a sentence and a half out without coughing my lungs out. And it turns out that it wasn't just like a virus; it was a lung infection. So these handy dandy things right here,
oh shit,
tend to help. So yeah. I can actually breathe and not feel like I'm choking on air. That's a plus, especially when you're trying to do this sort of thing.
Yeah, man. I've got seasonal asthma that I have to use a rescue inhaler for when I overdo it or overexert myself, and they work really well in a pinch, but I always find myself in a position where I really hope that I never have to use them. But when your health is at risk, then yes, absolutely turn to something like that. So I'm glad that you've got options, and I'm glad that you're able to help put this show on, because I have tried to do solo podcasts in the past, and they did not go very well. If you listen to a particular early double digits episode of the IPC podcast back in 2014, you'll know what I talk about. But I love being able to play off of people and hear thoughts and opinions and be able to just have a general vibe of different situations, and you just can't do that by yourself. And so I'm excited to be here and excited to dive into the stuff that we've got to talk about tonight.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time thinking about what interests me anymore. I'm 35 years old, not in the greatest health, and I have 3 incredible kids and an incredible life partner, and working away. And I don't know, man. There was a night last week I was feeling really shitty, barely being able to breathe, and I sat down and said, you know what, I'm going to watch The Making of the Last Jedi. Anybody who knows me knows that's not one of my favorite Star Wars films.
Excuse me? You must have really been feeling shitty to put that on.
I was feeling shitty, no doubt about it.
Jeez.
And, it's not like it's the first time I've watched that documentary. I actually think it's a really well done documentary. It's well put together. But it made me go, what gets me excited? Like, we talked about it when you and Ben were on the Legacy of Star Wars last week. For example, Jade and I seen Thanksgiving this weekend, and we really enjoyed it. Good movie. It's not like a franchise or anything. It's just a really good horror movie based around the Thanksgiving holiday and Black Friday, for what that's worth. And so I was never overly excited for it. It's not like it was the next Star Wars movie or something.
Right.
But then, to be honest, I don't know how excited I am for the next Star Wars movie. So I'll start things off simple here, man. When's the last time you found yourself super eager, counting down the days to either a television or movie event, and what was it?
Counting down the days. I don't think I've counted the days until something.
Not every day either. You might just be like, it's a couple weeks away now, or it's a month away now.
You know, I guess the easy answer would be Ahsoka because it was supposed to come out on my birthday. And so I was already getting excited for my 30th birthday. And then I was like, oh, shoot, I'm going to have a Star Wars TV show also on my birthday. That's freaking awesome. And then they like bumped it up a day early or something. And I was like, son of a bitch, I never get anything on my birthday. So that may have been the closest thing. But then before that, dude, it was probably a countdown for The Rise of Skywalker. And it was more because I was going to be hanging out with people than I was getting excited about the movie. I was more excited about who I was hanging out with and who I was watching it with than I was about actually watching it. So it's been a minute because I got excited for Infinity War. I wasn't as excited for Endgame just because I knew how it was going to play out. But yeah, I guess it was Ahsoka. But you know, there's just it's very sparse. It's few and far between. If you're looking at Rise of Skywalker to Ahsoka being the last two times I was like genuinely looking forward to something, that's like a 4-year gap. So there's not been a whole lot that's gotten me that way. I did look forward to House of the Dragon. I'll admit that, but I don't know if I was counting the days for it. I was like, if it shows up, it shows up. If they delay it, they delay it. But I did enjoy being able to look forward to watching that every week.
Yeah, I think Ahsoka was close for me. Like, I really enjoyed it. I basically watched the entire series with Jade, and Johnny, Randy, and I did reviews for almost every single episode of the series. I missed one, I believe. And like, so I was excited for it, and for the most part, I was really happy with what we got. But I don't know if I was like that over the moon, counting down the days, you know, paying attention to, oh, well, we're only 2 months away, or oh, we're only a month away. It just sort of came because I wasn't thinking all that much about it leading into it. For me, the last thing was House of the Dragon. Like, I think we got a teaser trailer for House of the Dragon something like 14 months before the thing ever aired on HBO, or pardon me, Max, I guess, for you guys down there. But yeah, it was probably House of the Dragon for me. And then before that, man, I don't know. I was pretty excited for the second season of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And then probably the first season. I didn't have that level of excitement for Book of Boba Fett or Andor, even though I really liked Andor. Kenobi, I was over the moon for because it was Kenobi, and then we got it, and since then, you know, it's come out and been confirmed. Like, they went super cheap on the series. The series that they could have sunk a ton of movie or money into ended up being the cheapest Star Wars series they've done in the Disney Plus era by a lot. But still, my excitement leading into it, regardless of what the end result was there because it was nostalgia, right? Like, people talk Star Wars and their previous Star Wars experiences earlier in their life, and like Revenge of the Sith is one that stands out for me, and seeing it in theaters, and but like it's just so few and far in between now. Like, the MCU does nothing for me. I'm not saying it's all terrible, but like, I, as a kid, man, I wanted more and more and more, and now it's like you've almost learned better to go, you know what? It's better to wait for something good than get a lot of something that's not so good.
Yeah. I've pretty much been coasting since Endgame. And I don't think it's because the quality has deteriorated. Like, the quality can be subjective, you know, based on your interpretation. But I think I just lost interest. You know, like, I have been waiting to see how they were going to defeat Thanos. They defeated him, and now I'm done. I'm not interested in it anymore. Kenny thinks that Star Wars, Marvel, and DC are all struggling, and since DC is starting over with this DCU, it's risky. I'm with you in that last sentence, though, Kenny. I want them to do well. I'm not wishing ill on any franchise. The more successful they are, the better it is for us as fans. But I'm not going to go to every single thing that comes out nowadays. You know, Sean's got 3 kids. I've got 3 jobs and a wife. And so, like, things get in our way, life gets in our way, and we have to be a little more selective with the things that we're going to see. And so, thankfully, a lot of it ends up on streaming apps, or we have opportunities to find it online or at a discounted rate the longer it's been in the theaters. But I've been watching a lot more TV than I have been movies. I saw Oppenheimer and Barbie over the summer, and then I saw Killers of the Flower Moon. And that's pretty much it. Like, I'm subscribed to AMC A-List, and I've hardly been using it. And when I went to see Killers of the Flower Moon, I saw it at a different theater that's a dine-in. And so, like, I'm putting $20 a month into movie theaters and not really going. But I can't bring myself to cancel it either because, I don't know, I like the accessibility. I like being able to have that option to go, even if there's not a whole lot that's drawing me to the theaters right now. Talking Star Wars says it was probably Cobra Kai. Did watch-alongs on other channels and watch the Karate Kid movies. I have heard a lot of great things about Cobra Kai. I have not seen any of it. So, again, not because I think it's bad. I haven't been drawn to that franchise the way I have with others, and I've got to be selective with my times.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? Is there's only so much time in a day, and
yeah,
you get family that eats up a chunk, you get work that eats up another chunk. You have this, and it's like, what's left to actually watch and entertain? That's why I'm like really picky. I'll rewatch something I really love before taking a chance on something that I think, that there's a good chance it's not going to be good nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And Cobra Kai is one that, I've enjoyed it, but I've never loved it. Was never a Karate Kid guy, and I think Jade watched the whole previous season without me. Like, not because she went and watched it without me, but because I just didn't have interest in watching it.
Right. I will say, though, the popularity that it gained on YouTube in its first season, it was a YouTube Red original. I remember that back when that was a thing. And then it was such a huge hit that Netflix picked it up. They bought it out and then produced it. And so the fact that it started as basically a YouTube Kickstarter and has become this super successful franchise on Netflix, I am thrilled that somebody's vision turned into something that big. I love that. And I would say that probably two of the biggest, most successful and iconic, widest reaching shows in the last few years, I would dare say, would be Cobra Kai and Ted Lasso. Everybody freaking loved Ted Lasso when it was airing on Apple. It was all anybody could talk about on my Facebook and Twitter feeds. And I didn't join that craze either until too late. But I'm definitely seeing the quality of Ted Lasso. We're slowly but surely working our way through that. And it's a good show. So I'm sure Cobra Kai is good as well. It's not one that I've been able to dedicate the appropriate time to, because it's got 4 or 5 seasons in it, something like that. And so when I see something that daunting, I'm like, man, I've really got to dedicate the time to it. And for us here in the States, it's almost the Thanksgiving holiday, and then we're getting ready for the Christmas holidays and stuff like that. And so this is like crunch time to be getting ready to spend time with the family and, going to different themed and related events and things like that. And those cut into your evenings as well. You go look at lights, or you go and see a play, or go and do like a Christmas screening of the Polar Express or something like that. That's time that you could have been spending watching Cobra Kai, but you chose to go watch that with your family instead. So it is what it is.
Yeah, there's definitely only so much time in a day, and you got to be picky about what you spend your time watching at the minimal time you get. Before we get into our first article, let me flip the question a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that's currently in production or pre-production, or that has been announced at least, that you're like really, really excited for and can't wait to get your hands on? Or is it all sort of like, yeah, there's stuff you're excited for, but nothing that you're like over the moon about?
I think the closest thing for me would be the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender. I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. It was probably peak television back when during its first run. And there's a lot of hurt fans from what M. Night Shyamalan did to that franchise. And I'm really, really hoping that what Netflix does here and with some of the original EPs coming back as consultants, that they can capture some of that magic from the original show and do something special with it. So I think Avatar: The Last Airbender is probably the closest thing I could say that I would get excited for. But Joker 2 is definitely something to get excited for, talking Star Wars. I loved that first movie. It was lightning in a bottle. And I use that phrase very sparingly, but it hit all the right notes at just the right time. And there's very few movies that are capable of doing that. And it's even rarer to see multiple movies doing that. But somehow Barbie and Oppenheimer both did that this summer. And Joker did it a couple of years ago. And then if you go all the way back to the 90s, I would say Jurassic Park. Nobody has been able to recreate dinosaurs the way Jurassic Park did. Jurassic Park hasn't even been able to recreate the story that Jurassic Park did. You look at the rest of the Jurassic franchise, nothing comes close to the 93 film. And so what I'm tempering my expectations for is that Joker 2 is going to be good, but it's probably not going to be lightning in a bottle good the way the first one was. And so I'm looking forward to what it has the potential to be, but I've got to manage my expectations too so that they don't fall flat, because it was such a near perfect film that it'll be very hard pressed to repeat that perfection.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the big uphill battle with that film is, will people buy into the sequel being a musical? I don't know.
I will.
I enjoy musicals. I think you and I talked not too long ago about Cyrano, and it's just, you guys check that out. Loved it. So I'm not closed-minded about it being a musical. I think it could kick ass. You got Lady Gaga, you got Joaquin Phoenix. Is Todd Phillips directing, or did he just write? I don't remember.
Good question.
But like for me, I'm again, that's not one I'm like really over the moon about, but I will definitely be seeing it, and probably opening weekend as well.
He's directing it.
Is he? Okay, well that's good. That gives me some hope. But sticking in the DC side of things is one that I am over the moon about. We'll see if the release date sticks. Is the Batman sequel? Not convinced it's just going to be called the Batman 2, but for me, the Batman blew me away. I think it's one of the best movies that's come out in the last 5 years. I think DC, the two best things, in my opinion, that DC has done in the last, I don't know how long it's been, a long time, is Joker and the Batman. And I just sort of question, is that because, at least in principle, both of those movies were done without the consideration of anything else being attached to them? They're singular stories. You just mentioned Jurassic Park. Now, I don't know a ton of the backstory behind Jurassic Park, but I would also say, is that first film the best? Well, obviously you got Steven Spielberg and company there, but it's a very contained story. You don't have a dinosaur running around San Francisco. And then 3 is kind of everywhere. 1's a pretty small, contained story, and it works, and the cast is fantastic. And I think that Batman and Joker share some of that. Meanwhile, every other DC project has to be connected to this universe or that universe, or we're resetting these events and restarting these events. And same with the MCU. There's so many damn shows now. I know you don't need to see them all, but I wouldn't even know where to keep up. And now we're at a point with Daredevil was in She-Hulk, and now basically his stuff is not going to really get counted for all that much, because they're going back and redoing his series and altering their tone closer to the Netflix series. My point is, I think it's easier to make one contained story than it is to make some convoluted universe.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with the Batman. I have other qualms with it, but it is relatively contained. It focuses on Bruce Wayne and his connections, and so I do appreciate that. With something like The Dark Knight, you see how immense the storyline is, and so it's very tough to replicate that, especially considering all the other stuff that comes with the Dark Knight franchise. I just hope Batman 2 doesn't try to do that. Make it like a bigger world and go even grander. Like, the thing that made it successful was Bruce Wayne. So keep it fixed on him. Jerry Ramey says Joker 2 will be interesting. If it's 10 years later, Bruce will be about 18 to 20, but he's a Jack the Ripper type. Not justice, just revenge. First of all, thanks, Jerry, for the super chat. We always appreciate those. They always go towards our creatives and helping produce great content, so we appreciate that. And if you're interested in more exclusive content, fans, you can always hit us up on our Patreon at patreon.com. What is it, /Fandom Empire? You got it covered up with the super chat. Yeah, we've got stuff for That Fandom Show. We've got stuff that's horror related. We've got stuff that pertains to several different franchises, and you can find all the tiers and all the exclusives over there on Patreon. But Jerry, I do think that if they fast forward a little bit, that you're definitely going to see Bruce trying to have his own type of justice. And that's something that they explored in the Fox Gotham TV series as well. And I'd be curious to see how they do it while also trying to do it differently. Because in the Gotham series, he's basically training under his butler, Alfred. And he's like getting there, but he's not there yet. I think they need to do something similar where he's getting there, but he's wild, he's untamed, he doesn't have the right morals and ethics and focus that he needs to have to be a proper Dark Knight. And so I think there's definitely a lot of potential there. But again, if you detract too much from the story, which is supposed to be about Joker, then it could make to a convoluted storyline. I think the focus needs to be on Joker, and it's very tempting for DC creatives to make Batman the focal point of the story because he sells. He sells tickets, he sells merch, he sells attention, and they really need to keep the focus on Joker in a Joker movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't know the ins and outs of what's going on with that movie, but I don't expect Batman to be in it, frankly, and I don't expect Bruce Wayne to be in it all that much. I think he'll be in it a bit, like he was the Batman, but I think the focus will be more on Joker and Harley Quinn's relationship than anything else. Seems to be what they're setting up anyway.
Well, just because they're setting that up doesn't mean they're not going to reveal something that's not showing up in the previews or the teasers or what have you. I think having a young Bruce as a cameo and having Thomas be one of the fatalities towards the climax of the film was no accident on Todd Phillips' part. I think those were things that were absolutely laying a foundation for something else. The question is how much further, how much deeper into that is he going to try to explore it, and to what degree? Because, like I said, if they do it too much like Gotham, then people are just going to draw those comparisons and be like, oh, it's just ripping off Gotham. They've got to find a way that if they do that, they've got to do it creatively. I think we'll get Bruce Wayne. It's just a matter of how much of him we're going to get. And now on to our article about Karol G, who won the Top Latin Artist Award. Actually, my wife's a big fan of hers, so I guess that's a cool reward, a cool accolade, but that's definitely not what we're actually here to talk about. It was actually, the news broke today that James Gunn has cast Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor in Superman Legacy. There's already been several comments from different people on Twitter/X about how maybe they don't see it, but James Gunn definitely did. And this article comes from Variety.com. He will play the Man of Steel's arch nemesis in Legacy, completing the core cast for the superhero reboot, with David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnan already set to play Clark Kent and Lois Lane. Hoult was one of the actors who was reportedly in the running for the role of Superman, I believe, the titular role. Instead, Gunn, the co-chief of DC Studios and the writer-director of the film, picked Hoult to play Lex Luthor, the industry titan with a bald head and an abiding fixation on bringing down the last son of Krypton. With the strike over, Gunn has been busy filling out the cast and confirmed on social media that Maria Gabriela de Faria was recently cast as another villain known as the Engineer. And on the superhero side, Superman is going to be backed up by Nathan Fillion as the Green Lantern, Isabella Marcet as Hawkgirl, and Edie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific. Anthony Kerrigan rounds out the list as Metamorpho. We know Nicholas Hoult from the X-Men franchise as the Beast. He was also most recently Renfield in the movie opposite Nicolas Cage. He's been in zombie movies. He's been in romance movies. He played J.R.R. Tolkien in a biopic about the author's life. He's got quite an impressive resume. The question, Sean, is, does this resume qualify him to be Lex Luthor?
So I don't really understand when someone goes, they don't see it, or they can't, comprehend someone playing a specific role. And for the love of God, I'll just take this photo, for example. Part of me thinks, well, they just can't picture him bald. And
one little bit of Photoshop will fix that.
Right. And I don't know. Nicholas Hoult is a wonderful actor. I think that he could easily play the role of Lex Luthor. And I don't see anything wrong with this. I think whoever you have as Lex Luthor needs to be a strong actor. You go back through the history. I think there's a lot of people against the Jesse Eisenberg thing, considering how it was received. I get it. But you look at Michael Rosenbaum in Smallville, literally the best character in the entire show. Gene Hackman, Kevin Spacey, say what you want about the guy personally. His role as an actor and his track record was, flawless. Very good performers typically play this role.
Mm-hmm.
And for a Superman movie to be successful, I think you need someone that can hold his own on screen. And as you just pointed out, Nicholas Hoult has done it in literally basically every capacity that you can in Hollywood right now.
True. This is very true. He's a well-rounded individual, and I think it's cool that he's got superhero movie experience. It's not like you're taking somebody who is completely new to the concept and has never been on that type of a set before and does not really know what he's in for. I don't personally believe that he was the best part of that X-Men franchise, but he was a solid part. And so it's interesting to see that he's going to try to make the transition from Marvel to DC. There's been a few character actors who have been able to do that so far. And above all, dude, I trust James Gunn. And I don't mean to say that as like, oh, I'm singing his praises and he can do no wrong. Like, he absolutely can. But I think that given his track record with 3 very successful Guardians movies, and then being able to make the Suicide Squad as well liked as it turned out to be, and then to be able to make Peacemaker off of that. Peacemaker was a funny as hell show and very, very adult oriented. I thoroughly enjoyed watching Peacemaker. And so I think Gunn's got enough of a track record in superheroes to know what he's doing. And he's a DC super fan. And so I think this could lead to something really good. And Kenny makes a good point in the chat. Let's just hope that maybe he can do a little better than Eisenberg. Eisenberg probably was one of the more divisive choices in the old DC universe, and probably wasn't as liked as they hoped he would be. But then you also flip the script and people take a look at Heath Ledger. I don't mean to make that far of a callback, but there were people that really disagreed with Ledger as the Joker, like violently disagreed. And then he turned in arguably one of the best performances of the century from 2000 to now. And so I think we just need to wait and see. I think Hoult's got the resume. I think he's got the acting chops. I think you put him in the right makeup, he'll look just fine as Lex Luthor.
So I'm kind of on the other side of the argument here, if you will. And
that's why we do this.
I'm incredibly worried about this whole thing. And here's why. Almost any great movie that you have heard of, you name it, 90% of them go through a year or more of script development where time has been taken and it's a process. And do you know how many of these bloody movies James Gunn and whatever they're calling this new DC universe have already sprung into pre-production and whipped together scripts? I got to tell you, if you're talking about a recipe for disaster, this already has recipe for disaster written all over it. I am clinging to my love of Guardians of the Galaxy, hoping that this all turns out good. But as we talked about off the top, when you rush things, it often doesn't. And the whole reason that the last DCU universe didn't work is they tried to do the MCU, but they fast forwarded it at about times 50. They didn't go through the time of giving the characters their own standalones before meeting up. If you spend more time with a protagonist or an antagonist, you're bound to care for those characters more than what you do as if you get them in just a team up right off the bat. And it also depends who's playing these people. Like there'll be people that'll tell you it wouldn't have mattered who was playing Iron Man. They're just huge Iron Man fans, and it still would have had the same impact. And I'm going to tell you that's complete crock of shit. Iron Man was impactful because people were attached to Robert Downey Jr. People loved his performance. People loved his attitude. It was A-list movie star type stuff. It was Han Solo of the MCU. And I'm not saying none of these guys can be that. They absolutely could. Nicholas Hoult could go down as the best Lex Luthor ever. I just hate the idea of so many movies being in pre-production at once, and we're supposed to sit here and go, yeah, everything's going to be okay, and it's not going to be a watered-down mess. I like that James Gunn has tackled Superman himself, but I also don't want all these movies in this universe to feel like Guardians of the Galaxy. You just named Peacemaker. Help me out here. Is it Suicide Squad or The Suicide Squad?
The Suicide
Squad. Yeah, the one with Stallone is the shark. And obviously Guardians. So I can't comment on Peacemaker because I haven't seen it. I can tell you what I've heard from people. It's all good things. But all three of those things have similar tones to them. And I'm not saying it's goofy, but like Guardians has a very specific Guardians tone. And I felt like the Suicide Squad movie was very, very similar to that. And I don't know about you, Zach, but I cannot sit through a whole fucking universe of every movie feeling the same. Not saying it's going to. I'm believe James Gunn's smart enough to not let that happen. But boy, if it's all tonally the same, I'm out already before it's even started.
The tough thing is, man, you might be one of those people that's, and I say this with the utmost respect, you may not be the demographic that he's trying to reach. And I think the demographic that he is trying to reach is the one that enjoys action and laughing. Because Peacemaker is that way, the Guardians are that way, Suicide Squad is that way, and they've all made a lot of money or had a lot of hits. And so there's very much a definite possibility that he could be making something that's got those types of punchlines in it. He's a big fan of music. He may be incorporating a lot of music into stuff. I'm not saying it's going to be cut and paste like Guardians of the Galaxy, but I think we could be in for a tonal shift as far as the way superhero movies are made. I don't think everything is going to be created exactly like the Batman. I don't think everything is going to be created exactly like the Dark Knight. I think as far as the comprehensive universe storyline goes, there's going to be a hybrid. It's going to be a blend. And it's just part of the new way that action movies and superhero movies are being made.
Oh, believe me, I've long accepted the fact that I feel like a lot of these movies are not geared towards me personally. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Nor do I want everything to feel like the Batman. In fact, I probably got some bad news for people who are fans of that movie. If you think that you're getting just the same movie part 2, it won't be that for the Batman. It'll be something different from the first movie, because Matt Reeves is not going to go out there. And I mean, I know you and Ben have done a lot of Matt Reeves movies in the past. Matt Reeves is not going to go out there and deliver you the same movie 3 times over again. It's going to be different. It's going to be tonally different too. And like, for example, the first movie, there's not a whole lot of Bruce Wayne. It's built on his past and the lore and stuff, and there's a lot of Batman. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't be shocked to see those roles flip in the next movie.
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example is the Planet of the Apes movies. It's a trilogy, and it's about Caesar, but none of those 3 movies are exactly alike. And so Reeves definitely has the craftsmanship capabilities to make a story that ties together with what's already been told, but still tells a new story that's individual and different and separate. Jerry with another super chat. We appreciate the support, man. Thank you so much. Rumors of Brainiac as the overarching villain and Engineer being the introductory villain. Legacy is becoming overstuffed. Lex needs to be end credits cameo only. We have seen villains be end credits cameos and it go pretty well, but I don't think they would have announced Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor this early in production if he wasn't going to have a pretty significant role. So I agree that there's definitely the potential for it to be overstuffed, but if you read the article, it's pretty stuffed on the other side as well. I mean, we're going to have Hawk Girl, we're going to have Green Lantern, we're going to have Metamorpho. Like, there's a lot of heroes and a lot of villains that's going to be in this film, it sounds like. So maybe they'll balance each other out, or maybe it'll be just twice as stuffed. We're going to find out, I suppose.
So some important things to remember. It may have some validity to it. It may not in terms of what comes in the future. But James Gunn's favorite Superman story is Smallville. James Gunn's favorite Lex Luthor is Michael Rosenbaum. The two are pretty close in real life. Michael Rosenbaum asked him when he had him on his show, or he didn't ask him, but he basically put him on the spot, and he's like, "I'm not right for your Lex Luthor, am I?" And James Gunn's just like, "You're too old." And he is now. And I do kind of wonder, first of all, I don't think Nicholas Hoult's coming just to be an end credits guy. And I have heard those rumors about Brainiac. And considering where they're coming from, I think there's a good chance that Brainiac is the villain of this movie. But that doesn't mean Lex Luthor is going to be the villain of the movie. That doesn't mean Lex Luthor is going to be a villain at all at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
Expect a very Smallville-esque story, but on the big screen. And I think Lex Luthor is going to be kind of like I think you'll have the good guys, and you'll have the bad guy in Brainiac, and then you'll have sort of this middling guy who is Lex Luthor, where his intentions will probably come true towards the end of the movie. But I don't think it's going to be as cut and dry as some of the other ones.
You know, I think Hoult might also have the ability to be somewhat charismatic, where maybe even if he has selfish and bad intentions, you still find yourself rooting for him a little bit. And I think that's the sweet spot for a Lex Luthor type character. Like, you know that he's selfish and he is driving things for himself and his own purposes, but I love it when a villain will show something like benevolence on the surface with an ulterior motive. And so if he's able to do something like that, I think that will be a sweet spot for Lex Luthor's character, where he does some good things, but you know that he's doing them for the wrong reasons. I think that's the type of guy that we're looking for.
100%. And I think Nicholas Hoult has the range to do that. Sorry, I'm just thinking back to a comment into one of our private chats earlier in a group that we're in.
Uh-huh.
I just, pardon me. I don't understand the, I don't know. I just feel like people look at a picture of someone and go, they don't see it. You mentioned it with Heath Ledger earlier. When it's like, really, people should be looking at the person's catalog of films that they've done and the performances they've put in. And Nicholas Hoult, I like a point that you mentioned earlier. There's a lot of people that'll go on to a Marvel set, a DC set, a Star Wars set. And like, these are massive productions, at least the cinematic ones. And they're completely taken out of what they're used to and the environment they're used to being in terms of filming one of these things. And Nicholas Hoult isn't going to have that. He's going to have probably more experience than the rest of the entire cast does.
Yeah.
In an environment like that.
Yep. And it's funny because I don't know exactly how old he is. I didn't look it up, but he's probably in his 30s, maybe early 40s. And he's probably going to be the veteran presence on that set, as far as how to conduct yourself, how to carry yourself, how to prepare yourself. And I think that's a good thing for him. I think that's a good spot, a good position for him to be in. So I wish him the best, and we'll see what happens. John Hayes says, I would like it if the Lex Luthor in this movie would have a more physical presence like they portray him in DC animation, where he wants to be the ultimate of the male species on all levels. I could see that. I could see that happening, especially since he has already played the Beast in the Marvel X-Men. He's been able to be kind of a mild-mannered individual that is also capable of being a very buff and strong individual. So you could see him starting out rather on the scrawny side, and then if he becomes like a legacy franchise character where he pops up in other movies, we could see him gradually getting buffer and stronger and better over the course of the DC universe. I don't know if they're going to do all of that in one film, because then there's not as much to do down the road. But I do like where you're going with that, John, and I could definitely see that being a possibility as the story continues to develop.
I think one of the other things that, maybe not the comic book genre in general, but just movies and TV shows need to look at doing is not just making everything at $200 million or $250 million or $300 million. That's how you get projects canceled, postponed, entire crews being let go and new people being brought in, stuff being buried, people looking for tax write-offs. I think you need to have more of a horror genre approach to certain films when you can. And not the entire horror genre doesn't do this, but the last 10 years or so, you take a company like Blumhouse and you look what they did with Halloween. You look at what Flanagan has done with a lot of his stuff. You look at the new Scream movies. These are movies done at an incredibly low budget. Thanksgiving just came out and it was done for $15 million. Now, obviously, you can't do that with Superman. Superman's going to need a big budget. But if you ever do another Punisher movie, you should not be spending $150 million just on the production to make a Punisher movie or a Daredevil movie. There are ways around that and still to make it effective. Obviously, when something is heavy with CG, you kind of don't have any other way to go about it. But with some of the more grounded stuff, even like the Batman, I know the Batman cost a lot of money, but a lot of that was pandemic related too. You just got to be able to make movies for cheaper. You can't greenlight 15 films at $200 to $300 million each and then expect, to have them all turn up profit. As we've seen this year, more often than not, that won't happen.
I think there's a difference, though, between vision casting for a project and greenlighting a project. I think James Gunn has a lot of projects that he would like to do, but he's going to be selective about which ones he chooses to fight for and advocates for and how much budget he's going to advocate for those projects that he really wants to see get done. So I do think that while he's got a timeline of those 15 or so, I don't think we're seeing 15 in the next 15 years. I think they're going to wait and see how the first few do, what kind of profits they turn before they start deliberating on what they're going to do down the road. I agree with you that they need to be careful with it, but I think for these first probably 3 or 4 of them, they are going to be a little bit bigger budget just to see what they're capable of. And then if they need to scale it back, I think they may scale it back from there going forward.
Last but not least, before we get out of here, I know we didn't get to talk about as much of the other stuff that we had lined up simply because the Nicholas Hoult news broke today.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, but I got to ask you, they're supposed to do, I forget what the name of the movie is, but Batman is going to be in James Gunn's universe. There's actually already some rumors as to who Batman might be. And if you're a Supernatural fan, one of those guys is in the running for it. Excuse me. I just don't know if that works, man. I don't know how many people are going to want to watch that Batman movie at the same time the Batman sequel's coming out. I think you run into danger having 2 different, completely unrelated Batman movies coming out at the same time. And honestly, I think they've done this before, basically.
I mean, Batman's been done dozens of times. Batman is old news. He is old hat. And that sucks because he's such a cool character. But yeah, I mean, the Brave and the Bold is not going to be news to anybody. And I don't think it's going to excite people the way other Batman projects have. I think the reason I enjoyed Gotham so much was because it was a refreshing take on a Batman origin where the main character is a secondary character in the show. And you're watching a torn Gotham City without a hero trying to make the most of their bad situations. Highly recommend watching Gotham to anybody that hasn't. But I think if you just keep doing Reeves Batman and Brave and the Bold and some other Batman project, people are going to get tired of it. I mean, look at what's happening in the MCU. People are already tired of some of the stuff that's being put out right now. Ant-Man is supposed to be the funniest character, and he's supposed to be like a kind of a beloved comic relief, and Quantumania got panned in reviews and in the box office. And so it's very, very easy to get burned out on something that is supposed to be easily likable. And I'm not saying Batman is comedic relief, but he is easily accessible and supposed to be, universally liked. And I just don't think that's going to be enough to carry a franchise and to carry multiple franchises like you're describing.
Yeah, no, I just, and the idea that they're both going to come out at the same time is just kind of maddening.
I would theorize that one of them might end up either turning into a limited series or a direct-to-streaming movie, so that it's not competing with the other one and it's easy to distinguish.
Yeah, well, I don't think it'll be Matt Reeves' project, so we'll see, though. Penguin's got one coming out, and it got delayed, but I think it's next year. So Colin Farrell's, when he's invested in something, he's quite good, so looking forward to that. I think that's all the time we have, though, Zach, so take us home.
Well, can I make one quick comment?
Yeah.
About the other article that we were going to show? We don't have to show it in its entirety, but if we can dedicate like even 2 minutes to it, I got something I wanted to show you. I got to flex on you a little bit. Yeah. One of the other announcements that came out from another universe, from the world of Westeros, you're going to be getting a 4K Blu-ray package of Season 1 of House of the Dragon. And conveniently, it's coming out around Black Friday for all of you people that like to do Black Friday and Cyber Monday shopping. We talked about this off air. I may look into it, but I think I may wait personally for the complete box sets because, my friend, there are few things on this planet more beautiful than this box set.
That's awesome. This
4K Blu-ray complete series of Game of Thrones. It's heavy. It's heavy. And it is so damn sexy. The dragon is as golden as the lettering, and the 4K Ultra HD plus digital code, the complete collection. Found that on Amazon on a sale not too long ago. I've got multiple seasons on individual season Blu-rays, but now I'm going to probably give those away because I got this puppy. So if you're a fan of the Westeros content, be on the lookout for Season 1 of House of the Dragon box set being down to, it says, $28 on 4K Blu-ray during this little holiday sale season. We'll definitely have plenty to talk about regarding House of the Dragon on the Legacy of Westeros, so be sure to hit that like button and hit subscribe if you haven't done that already. And keep up with all of the stuff that we talk about here on Fandom Empire, and we'll post links to some of the other shows and things that we're a part of. As long as you are a part of this channel, you'll know where everything is going on. And of course, Thanksgiving spoiler review is around the corner. I won't be a part of that because I haven't seen it yet. I saw the version you get from Wish called Thanksgilling, and it's god-awful. You don't want to watch it. Mondo bamboozled me into watching that piece of shit the other day, and I regretted everything. So be sure to subscribe to an actual review of an actual movie right here on this channel, and we'll be back for all kinds of great fun over the course of this week into next week. Hope everybody has a wonderful American Thanksgiving, and I'm looking forward to what kind of stuff we might talk about during the holidays, Sean. But unless you've got any other final thoughts, we'll close it out.
No, just be safe, everybody. Safe travels, obviously. Busy week for those of you down in the States. Hopefully you guys all enjoy your Thanksgiving. And honestly, if you're doing Black Friday stuff, be safe. You don't want to end up with a movie.
Yeah, it gets crazy sometimes. That's why I do all my shopping at home. I blame it on social distancing, but honestly, I've never had the guts for it. So, but that is going to do it for this edition of That Fandom Show. Stay tuned for another podcast in just a little while with Sean and Dean, and we will see you all next time here on this channel and on the next episode of That Fandom Show.